still don't know if what I saw was real or if my mind was playing tricks on me. But I swear, that thing was in my rearview mirror, grinning, despite having no lips. It was past midnight, and I was the only soul on the highway. A long stretch of asphalt cut through the empty desert, the road shimmering under the cold glow of my headlights. The sky was dark, starless, and the only sound was the steady hum of my 18-wheeler rolling over the cracked pavement. I had been driving for 16 straight hours, pushing through exhaustion, desperate to make my delivery on time. My body ached, my eyelids drooped, but I wasn't stopping, not on this highway. Something about it had always felt wrong, like the land itself was cursed. I reached a small, rundown gas station around 2 a.m. It was one of those places that looked like it hadn't been renovated since the 70s. Flickering neon lights, cracked pavement, a single pump still in operation. I pulled in, the truck's tires crunching against the gravel, and stepped out into the cold desert air. The place was dead silent. Then I noticed him. A man stood by the bathroom door, motionless. His clothes were old, tattered, and his skin was unnaturally pale, almost glowing under the station's dim lights. He was tall, impossibly thin, his hands buried deep in his coat pockets. But it was his face that made my blood run cold. His features were stretched too tight, his eyes sunk in black pits, and he wasn't blinking. He was just watching me. I felt my stomach knot up. I tried to ignore him as I filled my tank, but the hairs on the back of my neck refused to settle. I could feel his gaze, heavy and unrelenting. I hurried inside to pay, my fingers twitching as I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. The old cashier barely looked up from his newspaper. "You been on this road before?" I asked, trying to sound casual. The man sighed, rubbing his temple like he had heard the question too many times. "Yeah." I hesitated. "Ever see anything weird?" The old man didn't answer right away. Instead, he folded his paper, looking at me with tired eyes. "Just keep driving," he muttered. "Don't stop for anything once you leave here." A shiver ran through me. I paid for my gas, tossed the water into the cab, and climbed into the driver's seat. I took one last look toward the bathrooms. The man was gone. I exhaled a shaky breath, trying to convince myself it was nothing, just a drifter, a trick of the light. But as I pulled onto the highway, my heart pounded. Then I checked my rearview mirror. He was there, standing at the edge of the gas station lot, watching me. The road stretched ahead, endless and dark. I turned up the radio, trying to shake the unease crawling under my skin. But it didn't help, because a few miles later I heard it. A sound, faint at first, almost like static in the wind. Then it grew louder. Tap, tap, tap. I turned down the radio, my pulse spiking. The sound was coming from behind me. I glanced at the mirror, expecting to see nothing. But I was wrong. Something moved at the edge of my trailer. A shadowy figure, barely visible in the dim reflection. My stomach dropped. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe the desert was playing tricks on me. Then the tapping turned into scraping. Long, sharp nails dragging across metal. I gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. This wasn't my imagination. Something was out there. I slammed my foot on the brakes, the truck screeching to a stop. My breath came in sharp gasps as I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out, the cold desert wind biting at my skin. Silence. The road was empty. No footprints, no sign of movement, just the whisper of the wind against the sand. I swallowed hard and walked toward the back of my trailer. My heart pounded so loud it echoed in my ears. With a deep breath, I yanked open the doors. Nothing. The trailer was empty, just the way I had left it. I let out a nervous laugh, rubbing a hand over my face. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But then I turned back toward the cab, and my blood froze. The driver's side door was open. The engine was still running, the interior light glowing faintly. But now someone was sitting in my seat. It was him, the man from the gas station. Only now his skin was peeling, his face melting like wax, revealing raw, blackened flesh underneath. His sunken eyes locked onto mine, and then he grinned. His lips curled back, revealing jagged, rotting teeth, and in a voice barely more than a whisper, he spoke. "You picked me up back there. Now you have to take me where I need to go." I felt my knees buckle. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but my feet were frozen to the pavement. Then, bang! The door slammed shut on its own. The truck roared to life, shifting into gear. I didn't think. I just ran. I scrambled into the cab, my hand shaking as I yanked the wheel to the right, sending the truck veering back onto the highway. My pulse pounded in my ears as I floored the gas pedal, pushing the speedometer past its limit. I didn't look in the mirror. I refused to. But I could feel him, sitting behind me, watching. For miles I drove without blinking, my throat dry, my hands gripping the wheel so hard my fingers ached. And then, just as the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, the air in the cab grew cold. The pressure in the seat behind me lifted. The weight of unseen eyes vanished. I dared to glance in the mirror. The back seat was empty. I exhaled, my entire body trembling. Had I imagined it? Had I just been hallucinating from exhaustion? Then I noticed the window. A handprint, pale, skeletal, pressed against the inside of the glass. And underneath it, scratched into the dust, were 3 words. "See you soon." I've been a trucker for nearly 20 years, and I've seen my share of weird things on the road. Phantom hitchhikers, strange lights, shadows moving where they shouldn't. But nothing has ever shaken me like what happened one winter night in Montana. It was a brutal, icy night, the kind where the cold cuts straight through your bones. The highway was dead silent, stretching endlessly through the empty landscape. I hadn't passed another vehicle in over an hour, just me, my truck, and the darkness. The snow fell in thick, swirling sheets, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. My headlights barely cut through it. I was tired, running on nothing but gas station coffee and stale jerky. But I had to keep pushing through. That's when I felt it, a shift in the air. My truck suddenly felt wrong. You spend enough time in a rig, and it becomes an extension of you. You know when something's off, and something was off. At first I thought maybe I was just exhausted, my mind playing tricks. But then I heard it, a thump, from the sleeper cab. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I knew damn well I was alone. I hadn't stopped to pick anyone up, hadn't opened that door since I left the last truck stop. My hands tightened on the wheel. My heart pounded in my chest. I glanced at my side mirror, expecting to see nothing, but I was wrong. There was something in the reflection, a shadow. Something was moving in my sleeper cab. I could see it shifting, slow and deliberate, like it was aware I was watching. The curtain was pulled back just slightly, enough for me to see a shape. I turned up the radio. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks. Maybe I was just tired. Then I heard it again. Thump. This time closer. My breath came in short, shallow bursts. I wanted to pull over, but a deep primal part of me screamed, "No." Every instinct told me, whatever is back there, you do not want to see it. I gritted my teeth, trying to focus on the road. The snow swirled, the wind howled, and my hands shook on the wheel. Then, a whisper, right next to my ear. "Why won't you look at me?" I nearly lost control of the truck. My foot slammed on the gas. my rig groaning as I pushed it harder than I ever had before. I refused to look in the mirror again. I just kept driving. The whispering didn't stop. "I know you can hear me." The voice was wrong. Too deep, too gurgled, like something trying to speak with a throat full of water. I drove like that for nearly an hour, my heart racing, sweat dripping down my back despite the freezing temperature. And then, silence. The air in the cab felt lighter. The tension that had wrapped around my chest like a vice lifted. I didn't dare check the sleeper cab, not until I reached a well-lit truck stop with people around. When I finally pulled in and parked, my hands were still shaking. I grabbed my flashlight and, taking a deep breath, pulled back the curtain. Nothing. No footprints. No signs that anyone had been back there. Just my sleeping bag, undisturbed. But there was one thing that made my blood run cold. A single long scratch, carved deep into the metal wall. 4 words. "See you next time." I quit long-haul trucking 6 months later.